Hello everybody, my name's Just a Gamer, and today we're going to be talking about a subject that I enjoy talking about and is quite close to my heart, and that is nuclear power. If you're looking in the background, you'll notice some footage I filmed on my GoPro. A couple of days back, I went to the Trasfunid nuclear power station. I didn't actually go into the plant, but I went on a couple of public paths around it. That's the footage you're going to be seeing in the video. So we're talking about the British application of nuclear power. Nuclear power is a subject that is currently in the news, controversial. One side you've got normal people, side you have the people like the Green Party and Greenpeace, who are eco-mentalists and will tear you apart if you say that you support nuclear power. By tear you apart, I mean literally. They don't have any facts to support their opinion, so they just resort to sitting down and stopping people from doing their job. So we'll just go over the facts quickly. Nuclear power in United Kingdom generates about around a quarter of the country's electricity as of 2016. That's a couple of years back. Um, and nuclear power is projected to rise a third by 2035. That's with the new nuclear plants that are being built. The UK currently has 15 operational nuclear reactors and 7 plants, 14 advanced gas-cooled reactors, and 1 pressurized water reactor. Um, Advanced gas-cooled reactors for sure is AGGR, if you didn't know, and 1 pressurized water reactors are PWRs, as well as a nuclear reprocessing plant at Sellafield, which is in Cumbria. I know that. Um, Yeah, so the United Kingdom established the world's first civil nuclear program, opening a nuclear power station called a Hall at Windscale, which is near Sellafield, England in 1956. At the peak in 1997, 26% of the nation's electricity was generated from nuclear power. Since then, the number of reactors have closed, and by 2012, the share had declined to 19%. The older AGR reactors have been life extended, have had their life extended, sorry, and further life extensions across the AGR fleet are likely. In October 2010, the government gave permission for private suppliers to construct up to 8 new nuclear power stations. However, the Scottish government, with backing of the Scottish Parliament, has stated no new nuclear power stations will be constructed in Scotland. Which is, okay, I'm getting away from the facts now, which is quite sad. I mean, Scotland, it's quite a perfect place to put a nuclear power station. Low population density in most areas, and a lot of area to build on. But anyway, we have to get on with our day. EDF Energy is planning to build 4 new reactors at 2 sites, with the public consultation completing initial groundwork beginning at first 2 reactors sited in Hinkley Point in Somerset. That's Hinkley Point C. There's already 2 nuclear power stations there, Hinkley A and Hinkley B, and those were built. Well, I think Hinkley A was built in the 60s when the first fleet of nuclear reactors were being built, and then Hinkley B was built in the 80s when the secondary wave of nuclear power stations were being built. Horizon Nuclear Power, which I know a lot about because I support them, has plans for 4 to 6 new reactors at their sites, Wilver and Oldbury. Wilver A, which has just shut down, very tragic, was a Magnox site. It was owned by Magnox. So was Trasfunid. The footage you're seeing in the background now, that was owned by Magnox. Magnox was a nuclear power firm in the good old days of nuclear power, so the 60s. And they built the Trasfunid and Wilver site. Both had 2 reactors. The footage you're seeing in the background of Trasfunid, those 2 big grey buildings, those are the 2 reactor buildings. And that the pylons that are going overhead in a while. I'm not sure if this will sync up, but those are the input lines from the nearby hydroelectric project. Those are not the output lines for the actual power stations, and those are much bigger. Anyway, Yeah, 3 reactors also in the works for the Moorside nuclear project. An agreement has also been made allows for Chinese designed reactors to be built on site of Bradwell nuclear power station. Now the Chinese, they're doing some great strides in nuclear power. They themselves are starting their nuclear power project after using fossil fuels for decades and polluting the atmosphere. So they're doing a good. They have some really cool technology coming out, such as floating nuclear reactors. So those are being put on barges to provide electricity for things like mineral drilling rigs, oil rigs, to provide power to those um, sites. The first station to be kicked into the grid was in on 27th August 1956, which is Calder Hall. And I'm not sure I'm stating this correctly, but Calder Hall was one of the well, in the Western world, was one of the first nuclear reactors to be fully operational and provide power to the grid. Um, yeah, Calder Hall wasn't for the purpose of energy production at start. It was just for the production of weapons grade plutonium, which was going to be used for the UK's nuclear arsenal. That was the first purpose of nuclear powers, to provide nuclear weapons for the British government. And once they found out that when you split a uranium atom, not only a small percentage of plutonium is produced, but also a large quantity of energy, they thought, hey, this produces energy, we could use this as a resource to provide energy for the country. And things went on from there. Yeah. So it says here, yeah, it wasn't the first. Yeah, Calder Walls was the first nuclear power station to deliver electricity to commercial quantities, although the 5 megawatt semi-experimental reactor at Obninsk, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, in the Soviet Union was connected to the public supply in 1954. So it was the Soviet Union that made an experimental reactor that was the first to go online. So, yeah, okay. Yeah, so in February 1966, it was announced the first prototype fast breeder reactor in the United Kingdom would be constructed in Dornray, Scotland, at a cost of 30 million. Breeder reactors are quite interesting. A breeder reactor, I'm going to say this, I'm going to say this correctly. Breeder reactor is basically a reactor once the fuel is used, once it's split, produces more fuel, sort of a chain. I've heard of thorium breeder reactors where you split thorium and it creates uranium. Those are going to be put into use soon. Yeah. So a thermal oxide processing plant is the one in Sellafield, and it was opened in 1994. Construction had begun in the 70s at a cost of 2.4 billion. Basically, the thermal oxide processing plant, or THORP for short, basically where you take spent uranium from a nuclear reactor, any nuclear reactor, uranium use uranium. You can take that fuel, put it into the THORP, put it through a chemical bath, and after that process, it will come out as nuclear fuel that can be used in nuclear reactors and such. That's 97% of the weight of what people are mostly against with nuclear power, which is the waste, aka proper wording is depleted uranium. Depleted uranium. Use that. Use that. 97% of depleted uranium can be reprocessed and sent to a nuclear reactor, but the 3% left, which is high-level waste and plutonium, plutonium can be used for things like nuclear weapons and all that. That has a purpose, even if it is a destructive one or defensive purpose. Um, the other 2% is mostly high-level waste, which can be stored because it's in such a small quantity. In America, you could fit all the depleted uranium made by a nuclear reactor from one power station into a Shell petrol station shop, or in America a 7-Eleven. You could fit all the nuclear waste depleted uranium produced in a 60-year service into there. That is amazing. That's all the waste, so that's not just the 3% other products, it's all the 97% plus 3%, 100%, all the waste could fit in there. So yeah, not much is produced within a 60-year lifespan. And just like people like Greenpeace, they oversaturate the amounts of nuclear waste produced and say it's tons upon tons are being dumped, and the government is just putting in the sea and all that, which is illegal and you can't do since a ban in the 70s and 60s. Okay. Sizewell B nuclear power station was built and commissioned between 1987 and 1995. Began producing power for the national grid in February 1995. Its construction followed a 4-year, 16 million word public inquiry as a 2014 constructed in the United Kingdom, so it would be intended for the first series of 4 new identical power stations, but the rest were dropped and as uneconomic, citing privatization. Anyway, those are the facts, most of them. I mean, the main argument with nuclear power is the depleted uranium and nuclear waste. And then that's easily debunked by the fact that you can reprocess it. And it just pisses them off. I live near 2 nuclear power stations. I live near the one in Anglesey, which is the Wilver I just talked about, and the Trasfunnet, which you are seeing on the screen. And those are completely safe now. To the Wilver site, its first reactor shut down in 2012, and its second reactor, oh no, it's the other order. Second reactor shut down in 2012, and first reactor number 1, shut down in 2015. That was a sad day for the engineers on the site. They must have felt quite sad at the end of an era there. But with the New Horizon projects in Wales, work is sure to come back to the valleys. And these sites are absolutely completely safe. A nuclear power station, one of the most secure facilities you can visit or be in or work in. It's one of the most secure facilities because there's so much precaution and so much attention to detail with everything. Structural, integral security, everything is fall to a T. Everything is safe, everything is absolutely accounted for. And both the reactors at Wilver and Trasfunnet, they were both Magnox reactors. They were both I'm just looking through here, sorry. Just edit that out maybe. They were both 490 megawatt reactors. They were both power stations had 2 of those, and they provided a lot of electricity. With the new Wilver development, there've been a surge of protests at the site by things like Greenpeace and yeah, so amid public controversy, Greenpeace issued an independent safety appraisal commission report. Large associates critical of the plant and its restart plans. Permit to restart operation was given in August 2000. This is about the restart of Wilver. The Wilver station was supposed to shut down in 2000 or 2001, but they kept it going because of energy demands plus the site's good lifespan. It wasn't as shut down worthy as other sites. So yeah, people didn't like this for some reason. I mean, it's a nuclear reactor. I mean, what's to be afraid of? I know the nuclear industry is not the most popular industry. People have bad ideas about it from TV and media. Simpsons. Simpsons actually been bad for the nuclear industry. Simpsons has fed false facts. I'm not being critical of Simpsons. Simpsons is a great series, but people have thought less positively about nuclear power since they started Simpsons. Anyway, Um, yeah, so in addition to welding weaknesses highlighted in depletion of the graphite moderator blocks and concern of PAWB or PAWB. The funny thing about the PAWB organisation, People Against Wilbur B, is that PAWB in Welsh is everyone. That's just ironic because nobody else thinks the same as you do. So the there's more support than there's more support than against. There's more for than against with the Wilbur project, and they just have to keep their noses out of Welsh industry and stop the. They just have to stop destroying Welsh industry. Just stay out, mate. Anyway, to the power station, you'll see the background of Trallsfynydd. This place is near the village of Trallsfynydd. They built a reservoir for it. A reservoir, more of a lake, to provide cooling water for the site. It was designed by Basil Spence. Construction was undertaken by Crompton Parkinson International Combustion, Ferry Engineering, and Richardson Westgarth, and known as the Atomic Power Construction (APC). Construction began in July 1959, and both of the reactors were operational by March 1965, so under 10 years. With the station opening fully in October 1968, so that's 9 years of construction. That's not bad. The cost of 103 million. Now, nuclear power stations in general, they're expensive. There's a lot of safety precautions. The reactors are expensive. The fuel, used uranium, is not that expensive to mine and successfully split. That's the process. You split a uranium atom. It's protons and neutrons. They crash into another atom. Uranium atom. Carry on the process. And Magnox, they've given this site over to the Nuclear Decommissioning Association now. I think that's what it's called. Yeah. So in beginning, the plant shut down since 1991. It did not produce for that long because it wasn't as worthy of continued operation as the Wilbur nuclear reactors were, since Trallsfynydd was an older design, hence the larger buildings, containment buildings. Yeah, so beginning in 1993, the highly radioactive spent fuel rods were removed from both Magnox reactors and sent by rail to Sellafield. Sellafield is a storage site for the UK nuclear waste and depleted uranium and fuel and all that. Intermediate level waste such as the walls of the cooling ponds or pipes have been carefully removed using robots over the next decades. Yeah, so they're still decommissioning the site, so they're still pulling things apart, like the pipes and all that. Yeah, so they're gonna